And welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is a breaking news live. Rumours coming out in the last few minutes that apparently Erik Ten Hag is going to meet the new agent of Darwin Nunez, Jorge Mendes, who hasn't not had his fingers in a transfer pie for about 15 years now.
He's done well, hasn't he?
The reports over the last few days were that Liverpool were getting closer and closer and closer to getting this deal done. It's now looking like the latest wave of news is United are sort of fighting back. And this comes from a reporter speaking to Sky, saying that Jorge Mendes is having a meeting with Ten Hag in Portugal. Man United is trying to steal Darwin Nunez from Liverpool. Darwin Nunez would like to play in the Champions League, but the next hours will be decisive. He's even gone as far to put a flight from Manchester to Faro, which I believe is in Portugal, as the supposed flight that Ten Hag is on the way to go and meet Jorge Mendes, who again is the new agent of Darwin Nunez. Quite a sort of spectacular turn of events, this, isn't it? When last night and this morning it looked as though this deal was done. Now we're being told Ten Hag is making another push for Darwin Nunez.
I think this is a little bit of... You saw Mark Ogden jump on this on ESPN last night and say that United need Darwin Nunez more than Liverpool need Darwin Nunez.
Do you think?
Well, you're losing Sadio Mane, but you mentioned there, they've still got Firmino, you've still got Jota, you've still got Diaz that you've got in, you've got Mane, you've got Salah still. Mane isn't even gone yet, he's now out the door.
True.
So they've still got that. When you look at United's striking options and forward options, it's really is limited compared to what Liverpool have got. So I think there's still a little bit more of United going, okay, who's our alternative to this? Whereas if Liverpool missed out on this, then there's that. The other flip side to that is I think that obviously Ornstein tweeted today saying that he'd agreed personal terms with Liverpool, but I think that the personal terms with a player coming from Portugal will probably never be a problem. I think his wages, whoever he goes to, even in the Premier League, will be more than what he's on at Benfica. So that has been the case. But I do think there's something there that maybe either one of these two clubs has kind of been used in order to get the price up for the other one. And I think that a lot of these reports have come out from Portugal, maybe rather than coming out from the British journalists and coming out from the clubs. This has come from the Portuguese press and maybe even Mendes going, these clubs want him, and whether it is them pushing the price up or not. But I do think now, like it's mentioned in this here, both clubs are interested. Both clubs are fighting for it. The easy option would be to go to Liverpool, but I do think that United, depending, I think, on whether they can get the De Jong deal for the right price, really want Darwin Nunez and want a forward of his kind.
It's interesting to me, the whole thing with Darwin Nunez in the first place, because it seems as though he's like the only striker in Europe at the minute. Like, I know obviously Lewandowski's potentially moving from Bayern to Barcelona, but other than that, I guess the Haaland deal's already done. Current sort of available strikers, he's the only person I've heard anyone link with. Like, it's almost like, well, he's had one good season and all the good strikers in Europe, Mbappe's staying, Haaland's already sorted, it looks like Lewandowski's going to go to Barcelona. He's the only other player that anyone's been linked with. It's quite bizarre that one good season has all of a sudden catapulted him to being the most desired striker in Europe. It seems a very quick rise to me for a player that has had essentially one good year for Benfica. I know he's young and he's got potential, but just on the sort of player side of things, it's too much money for me. Do you not think that this is a sort of a somewhat foolish move by Man United to try and pay 80 million quid for him?
Or is this just the price of things at the minute and price of players that we've kind of got to? I think that the cost, I think these clubs need the cash again, so I think that they want these deals to go through. You look at, I mean, it looks like Tchouaméni's gone to Madrid and that's all done. But 100 million for someone that, yes, he's played in France, but he's had only one or two really good seasons for Monaco, and now he's going for 100 million euros to Real Madrid. This just kind of seems the way things are going, where it's this kind of, I mean, how old's Tchouaméni? 22 years old, similar age to Darwin Nunez. 22, 23, looks promising. We're going to have to go for it. You're right, though. There's not really many other forwards that are out there that people are looking at.
Tchouaméni's only played 95 games for Monaco in his career, and you're going for £100 million. Like,
good player,
I get it.
Really good player.
Very talented player. Et cetera, whatever it is. He has come nowhere close to proving he's worth £100 million to me. With what he's done, he's been good and he's been excellent at times. But again, maybe like I said, this is just how much players cost. Darwin Nunez has been good, excellent at times, but he hasn't done it over a huge sort of span, and yet he's still worth 100 million. Maybe that's just what players are worth now. Maybe we're seeing that rebound post-COVID, where there seemed to be a time when there was a lot of free transfers, a lot of players dropping wages. Barcelona are still struggling, but they're looking like they're going to get Lewandowski now. Like, maybe we are heading back to where we were in sort of 2017, 2018, where if you're decent and you're signing for a top team, you're close to 100 million sort of as standard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think the other almost problem, you mentioned it before about Haaland going to City. If Nunez comes to either Liverpool or Manchester United this season, that is going to be a really difficult job to not be constantly compared to Haaland. Look, Harry Maguire, people have talked about and the price of that, but the fact that it was close to the Van Dijk deal within 12 months of the Van Dijk deal meant that was the comparison. He should be as good as Virgil van Dijk is for United, as he's there. And this is going to be the same thing. Well, he's going to cost you 30, 40 million more than what you're paying for Haaland. Yeah. The wages thing and whatever, you take that out of it, it's going to cost you more. He should be doing that. And if he doesn't score as many goals as Haaland for City, will be ridiculous.
Yeah. Whether we want to or not, whether we make those comparisons or not, for a fact across social media, and then that'll bleed into TV, bleed into radio, bleed into the press. The comparisons to Haaland and Nunez will be there from the start, simply because two strikers in their early 20s signing for the top teams in England, and actually Nunez cost more, therefore you better score more. Abhinav Verma with the Super Chat says, do you think we're spending 100 million on Nunez to assure fans that we haven't become all professional suddenly and dampen expectations this season? I don't think anyone is accusing Man United of being remotely professional.
No.
I don't think that's a case. We're still, I don't know. I think that guilty until proven innocent on that front.
I do think
I've been burned before.
The situation is in a bit of a weird one for this essentially new transfer structure at Man United, because on one hand they need to be more patient. They need to be, we're not going to make the mistakes we've done in the past. We're not going to panic. We're not going to do Sanchez style deals where they've gone for him, so we need to go for him and spend more money and kind of do that. But at the same time, you don't want what they didn't do at the start of Moyes' era, which is we need someone like Fabregas. We're linked to him all summer. The manager clearly wants him, and then you just don't get him. The same thing with Gareth Bale. That then look of, we're just back to that again. We're just not going to spend the money. We're not going to back our manager. So I do think that's probably going on in their head, where Nunez is probably on the list of maybe 2 or 3 strikers. Maybe he's top of that list, and maybe they just can't afford to miss out on him, and that might be the case. But I'm not sure. Like you said, I think it's maybe a touch too much. But if it doesn't impact our other deals, if we still get a Frankie de Jong over the line, if we still get a defender, still maybe get another midfielder, then it shouldn't matter for Manchester United how much we spend on a player if this is the one we want.
Yeah, I agree with that. And every year there seems to be rumours that we've got around 100 million to spend, and it does tend to be more than that most years, doesn't it? It tends to be up towards 150 million. But I think it's a big risk. I think he's a lot of money for a player that has done very little really in the grand scheme of things. People saying in the comments that you're paying for the potential. I understand you're paying for the potential. I know that if he was 31 and he just had this season, people wouldn't be paying 100 million quid for him. But let's be honest, most footballers don't actually get that much better from the age of 22 to 30. Like, the good ones do, the top players do. You keep improving year and year and year, and then by the time you're 30, you're probably at roughly your best. But most footballers, look at someone like Theo Walcott, is as good now as he was when he was 20, because generally speaking, a lot of players stagnate in their early 20s, and that's why they don't go on to reach that potential. So yes, he might improve, and if he's a top player, he will improve, but there are tons of players who get to about 22, 23 and never get any better after that, and they stay in the mid-table teams. That's what they do.
Abhinav Verma saying there in the comments, he's a potential Lukaku in those comparisons, but at the same time, you look at how he kind of got on there, scored a lot of goals earlier in his career, and now you look at his career where he's had season here, season there.
Has Lukaku got any better since he was 22?
Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
He
still can be devastating on his day. In the right system, he's got incredible attributes. I don't think he's a better player now than he was 5 years ago. I think he's the exact same player. Yeah. And I think that's the case for most of them. Luckily, he was pretty brilliant at 22, but that's just how it goes. And, I'm not saying he needs to get any better. I don't know, we haven't seen him in the Premier League. He could be good enough already. But if we're paying for potential and we're paying 100 million quid for potential or 100 million euros, it seems like a lot. I would like more assurances just how good he is. I mean, again, I've seen people using the sort of the logic of, well, if Liverpool want him, he must be good. okay, Fred. Like, and I know Fred's had a good season this year by his standards, and he's someone that might get games under Ten Hag, and he's got good attributes, etc., etc. But City wanted Fred, and we got him, and he hasn't probably been worth 50 million quid.
The weird thing is, this is probably the first time in a long time that we've been, it's been us and Liverpool. I think you mentioned this on the live last night of going for that. And it seems weird because I think we use the City comparison, but City miss quite a bit on their transfers. City give the time. They don't usually, they don't sign things. You look at what Luis Diaz has gone straight into Klopp's team and played. Grealish this year is been bits and starts and played a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not come straight in, and it takes a bit more time for a City player to kind of bed in. And they missed, early on in Pep signings, he got a lot wrong. Just signed a lot on top of it. Yeah. But this is a strange one, and like people have said, if he's good enough for Liverpool, he's good enough for United, and Liverpool haven't missed for a while. The weird thing of this is there's conflicting reports whether people really want to spend that much money, how much they really want him. I've seen reports now that because Ten Hag's flying to see him, he really wants the player, but then at the same time I've seen reports saying this is a bit more maybe from the media, from Portuguese side, building this up. So you don't really know that situation. And the same thing on the Liverpool side. They seem secure to get him, but there's also people going, like we're saying, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And do they want to actually spend that much money on this player? And do they think he's worth it?
Just as an update from Fabrizio Romano in the last hour, he says Darwin Nunez deal key hours ahead as reported, waiting for key stages as Liverpool are in advanced talks with Benfica on an €80 million verbal bid and personal terms already discussed. But Manchester United are in contact with his agent even this afternoon. So, it's not just this guy from Sky. We've got Fabrizio Romano. Basically, I don't know, the flight out there and stuff hasn't been confirmed exactly, but United are in contact with Darwin Nunez' agent today.
Yeah.
That means that we don't think this deal is dead, clearly.
No, I don't think we think it's dead. It's a weird one. I'm struggling to get excited about it because in the back of my mind, I'm going, he's going to Liverpool. And I don't want to get excited about it. And in the same thing that if it happens, I'm still going to be sceptical. I'm still going to be, this is a lot of money on this player that, we have been linked with, had a fantastic season last season, looked very good in the Champions League. Mm-hmm. Is he ready for Manchester United? Is he ready to come in and start and play straight away?
And I hate to say this, but if Sebastian Haller had never been at West Ham, someone might be spending 100 million quid on him this summer.
Yeah.
Can I just throw that out there? If he hadn't already had, I know they spent like 50 million quid on him, let's not forget as well, 40 million quid. But looking at the numbers, 30 plus goals in the league, more goals than games in the Champions League, similar kinds of output to Nunez, but he's doing it for Ajax instead of Benfica. If he hadn't already had that one roll of the dice for West Ham, he would be linked with all the top clubs going 100 million euros because he's had a very similar season. He's a similar style of player.
He's a little bit older.
He's a little bit older, so maybe you can knock 20 million euros off it. But still, I just worry that you might see that rather than Haaland or Lukaku or whoever, or a top player. Interesting. Paul Cranberry said we might as well get Declan Rice with the 100 million. I don't think it's going to work like that. I think they want more than 100 million for Declan Rice, and we don't want to spend 100 million on a midfielder, I don't think. And if we do, I think it's De Jong.
I think it's De Jong. I think De Jong's the one. I think that this has been, maybe United have accelerated in this. I think the reports were last week was that United have kind of pushed things back on Timber and Nunez because De Jong is the one they need to get over the line. Mm-hmm. This is the one they need to focus on. This is the one they want over the, midfield is the priority. I think that was clear last summer, that midfield was going to be the priority this summer. We've lost two midfielders already out the door. We need a midfielder. I think they want to get that one over the line, but maybe there's a bit of a panic of, now Liverpool are interested in Nunez. This is one that we kind of earmarked. We haven't really... There hasn't been a buzz around someone else. There was the early stuff about Nkunku that he might be coming in or we were going to be linked with him. But that was maybe more a Rangnick thing, and that maybe now that he's gone, they're not going to push as heavily for him. It seems a bit odd. It seems a bit odd that this is now accelerated to the front of everything. And I think, is this a bit of a panic? I'm not too sure.
It feels as though there's a level of panic to this, doesn't there? The speed and, like you said, the sort of the intensity and sort of out of the blueness of this update for United suggests to me that we've gone, forget all this De Jong stuff for a minute. Liverpool are going to sign him. Let's make our sort of final push. This feels like a real sort of final swan song from United. That kind of, okay, well, we might as well do something. This feels like it's it. So I think in the next 2 days, we'll know where he's going.
Do you think...
And if I had to bet, I would guess Liverpool.
Do you think there's a say this summer happens, do you think there's a possibility this summer where we get Nunez and De Jong and that's it? And do you think...
I think that's possible.
Do you think that's anywhere near good enough?
No.
Where do you think we finish with that summer?
I think depending on how well they adapt to Ten Hag's style, I think we could get top 4. Because as much as I know Tottenham will improve under Conte, I still think they're going to be fragile. There's too many weaknesses in that squad, mentally, just players wise. I think we could still get top 4. But I don't think it improves us enough. I do think it improves us, though.
Yeah, I think it definitely does.
That's the thing. It does improve us. It's just, if it was up to me, I would get one of those two and then 3 or 4 other players rather than just those two. But again, I don't see us signing both of them. I think that's too much money. What's that? I'm going to be 130 million on those.
I think that would be the budget gone. I think everything else then would rely on sales. I think that's the worry with United, because I think that was the same thing last year where we got... Even with Ronaldo coming in, everything else was going to rely on sales. Jesse Lingard didn't go. Paul Pogba stayed. I don't think that was Henderson stayed. All Bailly stayed. Jones stayed. Lingard, all of them stayed, and we didn't get anybody else. No. And I do think that's probably going to be the same thing again. The two things they want a forward and a midfielder. And I think this could still go through, and I still think we could pay that much money. And I think that would be it. But then I think it's you're waiting on Bailly to go, waiting on Jones to go. There's a possibility there.
Maybe. Right, that's going to be all from us. Reports from Fabrizio Romano, reports from Sky Sports saying that Manchester United have been in contact with Darwin Nunez's agents as of today. Other reports suggesting that he's gone as far as Erik Ten Hag flying to Portugal to speak with Darwin Nunez's agents. Any updates, we will bring you them live on Stretford Paddock. Again, we'll have the news in the morning. We also have a video coming out this evening, so make sure you check that as well. It's all up in the air for Darwin Nunez. I'm not sure I want him, but United clearly do. Right, we'll see in a bit.